Good morning, and welcome to Tuesdays with the Pilgrim. We continue our journey with Mercy, Christiana, and the four boys as they continue their pilgrimage towards the celestial city. We pick up at chapter 21, part 13. Christiana shares how she became a pilgrim. Now supper was ready, and everything was set on the table. After giving thanks, they sat down to eat. It was Interpreter's custom to entertain those he hosted with music at meals, so the musicians played throughout their dinner. There was also a singer with a fine voice, and this was his song. "The Lord alone is my support, and he never fails to feed. How can I then want anything? What is there that I need?" When the song and music were ended, Interpreter asked Christiana what had moved her to take up the pilgrim's life. Christiana answered, "First, the loss of my husband came to mind and gave me great grief, but that was only natural affection. After that, all his troubles leading up to his pilgrimage, and then the pilgrimage itself weighed heavily on my mind. Also I remembered how unyielding I had been. Guilt took hold of my mind and would have drawn me down to the pits. But just in time, I had a dream that he was all right. After this, an invitation was sent to me by the king of that country where my husband dwells. The dream and the invitation together so prevailed upon my mind that I was forced to go this way." "But didn't you run into any opposition before you left?" asked Interpreter. "Yes, a neighbor, Mrs. Timorous. She was related to a man who tried to persuade my husband to go back because he was afraid of the lions. She belittled me and called my pilgrimage a desperate adventure. She also tried to discourage me by pointing out the hardships and trials my husband had endured. I got over this soon enough, but then I had a dream of two wicked men who were plotting how to ruin my journey. This greatly troubled me at the time, and I still can't get it out of my mind. It makes me afraid of everyone that I meet for fear that they will try to do me harm and turn me out of the way. I don't want everyone to know this, but I will tell you that between here and the gate by which we came into the way, we were so terribly assaulted that we both screamed murder. The two who assaulted us were like the two I had seen in my dream." "You have made a good beginning," said Interpreter, "and by the end of your journey you will have greatly increased in strength and confidence." Chapter 21, Part 14. Mercy shares how she became a pilgrim. Interpreter then turned to Mercy and said, "And what moved you to come here, my dear?" Mercy blushed and trembled and remained silent for a while. Interpreter soothed Mercy's mind by saying, "Don't be afraid, only believe, and say what is on your mind." She answered, "The truth is that my inexperience makes me want to keep quiet. That same reason fills me with fears of falling short in the end. I cannot testify of visions and dreams like my friend Christiana can, nor do I know what it is to mourn over my refusal of the advice of those who are insightful relatives. What was it then, dear one, that convinced you to make the choice you have made?" "Well, when our friend Christiana was packing up to leave our town, another woman and I, without knowing what was going on, went to visit her. We knocked at the door and went in. But when we saw her packing, we asked for an explanation. She said that she had been sent an invitation to join her husband. She then went on to tell us how she had seen him in a dream. He was living among immortals in a strange place, wearing a crown, playing on a harp, eating and drinking at his prince's table, and singing praises to him for bringing him here. While she was describing these things, my heart burned within me, and I told myself, if this is true, I will leave my father and mother in the land of my birth, and if I may, I will go along with Christiana. So I inquired further of her about the truth of these things, and I asked whether or not she would let me go with her. I had come suddenly to the realization that I could no longer live in our town without risking further ruin. Nevertheless, I left with a heavy heart, not that I regretted leaving, but out of concern for all my loved ones who were left behind. Yet I have come with all my heart, and if allowed, I will go with Christiana to her husband and his king." "Your initial decision is commendable, for you have given heed to the truth. You are a Ruth, who out of love for Naomi and for the Lord her God, left the land of her birth to join herself to a people she had never known. May the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to trust, bless your work and honor you with a full reward." By this time they had finished eating dinner, and preparations were made for sleeping. Christiana and Mercy were given one room, and the boys slept in another room. Although Mercy had gotten into bed, she could not sleep because of the joy she felt. Her doubts about her being accepted were put to rest, and she was able to relax more than any other time. So she lay there blessing God and praising Him who had shown her such favor. Chapter 21, Part 15. The Bath in the Garden. In the morning the pilgrims arose with the sun and prepared for their departure. But Interpreter wanted them to linger a little while. He said, "You should be well groomed before you leave." He then asked the young woman who had first opened the door to them to take them to the bath in the garden and have them washed, cleansing them from all the dirt they had gathered in their traveling. So she did as he said. She explained that this was what he required of those who called at his house who were going on a pilgrimage. After they had washed, they came forth not only smelling sweet and clean, but their bodies felt invigorated and strengthened. They returned to the house looking much lovelier than they had looked before. When Interpreter saw Christiana and Mercy, he said, "Fair as the moon." Then he called for the seal that was used to seal those who had been washed in the bath. The seal was brought to him, and he set his mark upon them, a mark that would be recognized in all the places through which they were to travel. Now the seal had the significance and the power of the Passover that the children of Israel ate when they were brought to freedom from the land of Egypt. The mark was affixed between their eyes and greatly added to the attractiveness of their faces. It also enhanced their dignity and made their countenance resemble that of angels. Chapter 21, Part 16. They are given new clothing. Then Interpreter told the young woman who had waited upon them, "Go into the closets and get appropriate garments for these people." So she went and came back with clean white clothing made of fine linen, and she laid them before him. He then commanded them to go and put on the clean clothing. When they did so, they became awestruck and even fearful of one another. For although they could see no change in themselves, they could see the glory of God in each other. For this reason they began to esteem each other better than themselves. "You are more full of grace," said one. "You are more pure," said another. And we'll end there for this week. And next week we'll pick up with Chapter 21, Part 17. They are given a guide. Until then, take care, stay safe, and God bless.